This 5 masked people rob a bank, but as they speed away in their getaway car, police cruisers swarm in one after another. With capture imminent, Cully tells her crew to drive into a tunnel. Closing her eyes and clamping a fist, she triggers a cave-in at the tunnel entrance. The lead police car slams on the brakes, but the others can't stop in time, piling into a chain collision. When the officers regain consciousness and step out, they find no collapse at all. What they saw was nothing but an illusion. Having escaped unscathed, Cully wipes the nosebleed from her face, revealing a 008 tattoo on her wrist. Clearly, she's also a superhuman with deep ties to Eleven. A year after Eleven's disappearance, the 4 boys have returned to normal life. That night, they hit the arcade to play street games. Dustin's scores usually top the leaderboards, but today someone named Mad Max has overtaken him. As they buzz about who this mystery player could be, a noise outside catches Will's attention. He turns to call his friends, only to find the arcade empty. The space is now covered in tendrils and spores, transformed into the Upside Down. Thunder cracks overhead. But before Will can see what's lurking, Mike's shout jolts him awake. The eerie scene vanishes in an instant, leaving Will convinced it was a hallucination. The next day, a sleek car pulls up to school, and 2 new transfer students step out. Billy, a hot-tempered boy with a mullet, draws the gaze of dozens of girls, while his stepsister glides into the middle school on a skateboard. Mr. Clark introduces her as Max. The 4 boys freeze. Could this be the Mad Max who crushed Dustin's high score? After class, the boys stalk Max, even digging through her trash. But the paper they find reads, "Stop spying on me." Turns out Max had noticed their antics all along, writing them off as creeps. Just then, Will's mom pulls up to pick him up. To his unaware classmates, Will is the boy who came back from the dead after drowning, earning him the cruel nickname Zombie Boy. Will feels overwhelmed by all the weird stares, not to mention his mom and brother's smothering 24/7's protection. Joyce panics if Will is out of her sight for even a minute, like when he's in the bathroom. Accompanied by the chief and his mom, Will is taken to the lab for follow-up care. The facility has since been staffed with all new people, plus a new director, Dr. Owens. Will tells them about the upside-down vision from the arcade. There was a massive monster watching him, filled with an insatiable bloodlust, and it wanted to destroy the world, but all tests show Will is physically healthy. Dr. Owens can only diagnose Will with PTSD. His traumatic past left deep scars so deep, in fact, that it's now making him hallucinate terrifying scenes. He advises Joyce to spend more time with Will, as there's no other treatment for now. Despite Dr. Owens' warm and responsible demeanor, the chief doesn't trust him, and for good reason. The lab is far from trustworthy. They never closed the gate to the Upside Down, they merely quarantined it. The tendrils are still spreading, creeping above ground, and the spores have infiltrated the lab. Only high temperatures can burn them away. Meanwhile, the chief is hiding a secret of his own. He drives to a rundown cabin in the woods and knocks with a secret code. A child answers, complaining he's late. The chief chides her gently for eating too much candy, like a father, and that child is 11. A year earlier, while using her powers to defeat the monster, 11 didn't die. She was accidentally transported to the Upside Down. Weak and terrified, she wandered, calling for Mike, but no one answered. In her despair, she saw a red glow on a wall. It was a slimy membrane separating the 2 worlds, exactly the rift the monster had torn open. 11 used her powers to widen the gap, tear through the membrane, and escape back to reality. But by then, the school was empty. She raced to Mike's house, only to find it surrounded by police. Officers grilled Mike's family, calling 11 a dangerous fugitive and urging them to report any sightings. 11 stood outside the window, tears streaming down her face. She'd saved them all from the monster, yet she was still seen as a threat. Mike glimpsed her briefly, but dismissed it as a hallucination. An agent noticed his odd reaction and ordered a search of the exterior and surrounding grounds. Left with no choice, 11 hid away and lived as a drifter. Starving and freezing, she stole clothes from a hunter and hunted squirrels for food. On Christmas Eve, she found a box filled with candy and waffles. It was left by the chief. Determined to keep her safe, he'd hidden 11 in the remote cabin, forbidding her from going outside. Time flies, and suddenly it's Halloween this year. 11 begs the chief to let her go, arguing that dressed as a ghost, no one would recognize her, but he refuses, warning her that danger awaits if she steps foot outside the cabin. Furious, 11 won't touch her breakfast. The chief softens, vowing to finish up work early, bring her candy, and watch horror movies with her that night. At last, 11 cracks a smile. In the middle of the night, Will gets up to use the bathroom. Suddenly, the front door swings open on its own. Outside, floating spores fill the air. A monster with massive tentacles advances toward him. Will is terrified. The next morning, Joyce finds the bizarre drawing of the monster Will made. She thinks he's seeing visions of the upside down again. Unwilling to worry his mom, Will lies, saying it's just an illustration for a story he's writing. But Joyce still can't shake her concern. Her new boyfriend Bob gives Jonathan a video camera, telling him to stick with Will on Halloween. Will doesn't want his brother tagging along. It'll make people think he's weird. Jonathan understands, so he tells Will to take the camera and go hang out with his friends, but he has to be home by 9 p.m. In truth, Jonathan has his own plans, meeting Nancy. After school, Max gets into her stepbrother's car to go home. Their relationship is actually terrible. Billy is even a bit unstable. He snaps at her halfway through the drive. To mess with her, he slams on the gas and heads straight for 3 boys riding bikes up ahead. Max scrambles to grab the steering wheel, narrowly avoiding a collision. Watching the boys fall, Max feels a mix of anger and guilt. That night, the 4 boys dress up as Ghostbusters to go trick-or-treating. On the way, a figure wearing a leather face mask charges at them with a knife. Luckily, it's just Max. Dustin and Lucas are thrilled to have her join. Since after staking out the arcade for days, they've confirmed Max is the one who broke the high score. Fond feelings spring up in both of them instantly. But Mike isn't happy. He sees Max as an outsider who'll ruin their group. It's not that he's narrow-minded, he's still hung up on 11. For the past 352 nights, he's talked into his walkie-talkie every evening, hoping to get a response from 11. Will quietly follows his friends, filming them with the camera. At a crossroads, he falls behind and gets startled by the costumes around him. As he stumbles to the ground, he's pulled into the upside down again. He's all alone, no one responds to his cries. Not far away, the enormous tentacle monster appears. Will runs for his life and hides. Just as the monster is about to catch up, Mike snaps him out of it. He's back in reality. Later, Mike safely walks Will home. Will tells him about the terrifying visions, asking Mike to keep it a secret. He doesn't think anyone will believe him. But Mike insists 11 would. He's never stopped thinking about her, and he's certain they'll meet again. Over at the police station, the chief gets a call. A farm's pumpkin patch has been extensively damaged. The farmer suspects his rival sneaked over and poisoned the crops. But his rival's pumpkins are also rotting, and the decay has spread to the surrounding trees. It's not just the 2 farms, several others have been hit too. The chief senses something's off, but he investigates late into the night without finding any clues. A kid points a toy gun at him, yelling, "Happy Halloween!" That's when he remembers his promise to 11. He quickly buys candy from the kid and races to the cabin. 11 refuses to open the door until the chief apologizes and mentions he brought candy. Even then, she stays hidden in her room. 11 blindfolds herself with a black cloth and uses her powers to enter the mental plane. She sees Mike talking into his walkie-talkie, pouring out his longing for her. It's been 353 days since they separated. Mike, after his terrible Halloween night, fantasizes about getting a response from her. But in the real world, he can never see her. 11 bleeds from the nose and cries silently.